Remember that that word evaluate in math means to plug something in and get something out. So in example 3, we evaluated composite functions algebraically, meaning from the formulas. Now we're going to talk about how you would evaluate a composite function graphically. Okay, so there's no formulas to rely on here. Okay, example 4, the directions say to evaluate each expression using the graphs of y equals f of x and y equals g of x shown in the figure. Okay, so basically, I know it's kind of tiny here, but if you read the letters on here, f is the blue function. Okay, so this is the blue function, and then g of x is going to be the red function. Okay, no formulas. Okay, we just have the graphs to go on. Okay, so let's give it a shot. Okay, so in part A, we need to find f of g of 2. There's absolutely no way we can actually form the function f of g. Okay, we're going to have to break it down here. Okay, this is going to be f of g of 2. Okay, so basically we need to start on the inside here. Okay, we need to figure out what g of 2 is. Okay, and then once we have that value, then we'll plug it into the outside function, which is f. Okay, so I've highlighted in yellow g of 2. Okay, remember 2 is going to be your x value. Okay, so on my graph, see where my cursor is. Here's where x equals 2. Okay, and I've got to look at the g function, which is the red one. Okay, so if x is 2, what's the output on the g function, which is the red function? Okay, well, the output, okay, is going to be 5, okay, because of this 0.25. Okay, so g of 2 is 5. Okay, so again, if you're looking at the red function, only the red function, not the blue function, if x is 2, the y value is 5. Okay, so g of 2 is 5. Okay, so the stuff that I've highlighted in yellow, those two guys are equivalent. G of 2 is the same thing as 5. So now 5 becomes the input to f. Okay, so let's erase what we have here. Now my x value becomes 5. Okay, now I'm looking at where x equals 5, and I'm interested in the function f, which is the blue graph. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the blue graph, okay, and I'm looking at the y value. Okay, so this point right here on the blue graph, okay, this is 5, 4. Okay, so if x is 5, the y value is going to be 4. Okay, so this is the final answer, 4. Okay, so that's how you have to do this particular problem. We had an x value of 2. We first plugged it into the inside function to get the y value, okay? And then we took that result and it became our new input, or x value, to the outside function, okay? Let's try another one. Okay, so in part B, we're going to evaluate g of f of 0. Okay, so again, we need to write it this way, g of f of 0. Okay, we're going to start with the inside function, or the inside part, which is f of 0. Okay, we're going to leave g on the outside. Okay, we need to figure out what f of 0 is. Okay, so 0 is your x value. Okay, so look at where x equals 0. That's right here. Look at my cursor. Okay, and we're going to examine the output on the blue graph, or f. Okay, well, on the blue graph, we have the origin is part of the blue graph. Okay, so f of 0 is going to be 0 because the point 0, 0 is on the graph of f. If x is 0, the y value is 0. Okay, so what I've got highlighted in yellow, f of 0 is equivalent to 0. Okay, so moving on, okay, in your next step, you're left with g of 0. Okay, so that means this 0 is now your input to g. Okay, so you're going to be looking at the red graph. Okay, you're still looking at the same x value that hasn't changed. Okay, so if x is 0, now we're going to examine the red graph. Okay, at x equals 0, what's the corresponding point on the red graph? Well, this is 0, 1. Okay, so if x is 0, the output is going to be 1. Okay, that is the answer for this one. Okay, all right, next. Okay, let me erase what we have so we don't mix it up. Okay, next, g of negative 4. Okay, so we're going to write this as g of negative 4. Okay, so g is both the inside function and the outside function, so we're only going to be using the red graph in this example. Okay, all right, we are going to start inside the parentheses here, so we're going to be looking at g of negative 4. Okay, so we're going to keep the outside function as g. Okay, we're going to try to figure out what g of negative 4 is. This is your x value, so if x is negative 4, which is right here, we need to go up to the red graph and find the point. Okay, this point is negative 4, 4. Okay, so basically if x is negative 4, the y value is going to be 4. Okay, so that means that g of negative 4 is the same thing as positive 4. Okay, so what we do now is we are left with g of 4. Okay, so 4 is our new x value, and we're plugging it into the red function, g. We need to find g of 4. Okay, what's the y value if x is 4 on the red graph? Okay, so let's go figure this out. So now we're looking at x equals positive 4, which is right here. Go up to the red graph. That's this point right here. This point is 4, 3. Okay, so if x is 4, the y value is 3. Okay, so the answer here is 3. All right, one more. Okay, so on the last one, okay, we are going to be looking at f of negative 2. Okay, so we're going to write this as f of negative 2. Okay, so we're only going to be using the blue graph here. Okay, f. Okay, so we're going to keep f on the outside. We're going to try to figure out the inside, which is f of negative 2, which I've highlighted in yellow. That means my x value is going to be negative 2. Okay, so we're going to look at x equals negative 2. That's right here. We need to look at the corresponding point on the blue graph because that's f. Well, if you notice, there is no output on the blue graph. Okay, there's an output on the red graph, but there's not an output on the blue graph. Okay, so what that tells us is f of negative 2 is undefined. Okay, so I'm just going to write this in here. Okay, you've got like f of undefined. So you're stuck. Okay, because what's in yellow here, what's inside the innermost part of the parentheses here, because that is undefined, at x equals negative 2, f does not have an output. The whole thing is undefined. Okay, so this is going to be undefined. And there's nothing else that we can do here. Okay, final answer. Okay, this is how you evaluate composite functions graphically.